Hello and welcome. Anglian Omega Group has created a global coalition of professionally managed and family owned businesses, collaborative ventures, partnerships, and seeded companies. Not a bad introduction. From being pioneers in steel bright bar manufacturers in India, the group is now expanding their horizon into e-mobility, capturing a promising segment and the next pivot in the auto industry. The company has decided to target the cargo segment for three-wheelers, which caters to major intercity movement of goods. Last mile for e-commerce is a major targeted market for them. At present, Omega Seiki, the mobility arm of the group, showcased two smart electric products at Auto Expo 2020, namely Singha and Singha Max. We have with us Uday Narang, who is the chairman of the Omega Group. Uday, firstly, my first question to you would be, out of curiosity, why name Singha and Singha Max? I mean, are you trying to project them as the next Singham? What's going on in your mind?
Well, I think, clearly, I spend a lot of time. I run my Far East operations from Thailand, and spent the last decade between India, Thailand, and Europe. And Singha is a very, very, it has many connotations in the Far East. And I believe that obviously it has certain meanings in India. But, for me, it is something that shows power, that shows strength, that shows capabilities. So it's really, really got to do with more of my Far East experiences. And there will be more brands like, the new vehicles we're coming out will be called Omega Rage. I like all these creative, new age names that represent, I'm 51 years old, but I'm very young at heart. And so I like the new, the generations X, the generation C, so to me, it is just the reason why for me is my connection to the Far East, Southeast Asia, and obviously how the combination with India works. So that's what it is.
If I understand from your branding positioning, you're trying to project your set of vehicles as ferocious as a lion. That's
exactly right. That's exactly right. And just one more point to say, we are introducing three-wheelers right now. By Diwali, we are going to launch our two-wheelers, and by the next year, I'm coming up with a really, really cool and a very, very efficient four-wheeler, which is going to be called M1KA. Okay, I'll coming up with the prototypes in March, and I'll tell you what it is. Whatever I've shown globally has given a wow factor. The key is we want to be in the cargo section all the way through. So whether it's two-wheelers, four-wheelers, I'm also going to go for tractors next year. So it's going to be the whole combination of vehicles and mobility vehicles coming one after the other.
Sure. It's established. Okay, I'm joined by my editorial colleague, Abhishek Banerjee. So Abhishek will direct your question to him. Abhishek, you can go ahead, please.
Okay, the government has recently announced a series of policies. One is Atmanirbhar, and also there is a lot of anti-China sentiments going around. Like people are boycotting Chinese goods and parts. So how do you perceive these two developments, and how are you planning to leverage on that? Because if you are developing electric vehicles, you need to source parts from China, especially the electronics, the lithium ion. Also, is it possible to be 100% localized going forward? Will you be in tune with the government's policy of being 100% reliant?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
I am looking to build a Tesla of the East, right? I am a very, very big fan of Elon. He's a dreamer, and so am I. Now, even before COVID-19, we've been working on this journey for a few years with our R&D team, with all of our teams. We just didn't start this today. We spent a lot of time looking at the entire ecosystem. So Atmanirbhar India, Make in India, value, local for vocal. We have got our vehicles are 100% made in India. Even the batteries that we are doing, we have an alliance with an American company that's making batteries here. We are working on a couple of alliances with a lot of the people in India. Our powertrain is with Virya Mobility, Sun Mobility System. You know the name. Our entire system, every part, everything is made in India. And we want to work and build that whole ecosystem, right? Where we really, even today, are not importing anything from China. We are 100%, even today, making it.
So you're leveraging big time on these policies, right?
That's right.
Okay. So, I mean, you said that you'll be focusing an entire gamut of segments, whether it's two-wheelers, it's three-wheelers, it's four-wheelers and all. So, I mean, why have you then shied away from cars? Because, that's the segment that's generating the maximum pollution. So, if you intend to curb pollution, why not have a e-car developed by you, and which can actually democratize technology in India?
Look, we want to do one of those things that I learned in my days in Wall Street, in Europe, in the US, and whatever you do really good at that, right? Now, I believe that the cargo section that we are in has, in the L5 category, we have the only vehicle in this country right now who has actually made something that actually works and that can actually deliver to the customer. I will say over a period of time, we will go into many sectors. But at the moment, as you know, this requires a huge amount of capital, right? As you go into bigger and bigger sectors. We want to build a track record of delivering, of achieving what we say. And then as we achieve, we will need to go to private equity. We will need to go to other people to join in our journey, like Elon did, right? So yes, at some stage we will, but at the moment what we want to do is we want to focus on the cargo. We want to focus on, like I said, four-wheelers, three-wheelers, two-wheelers, and go in this direction because we also believe in the mobility, right? So we're not just an OEM. Omega Seiki Mobility is about the last mile. So we are working with large players like Amazon, like Walmart, like all these places, where we will be part of the mobility system. We will be part of where an Amazon will say, these are my needs. Well, then we'll say, we are developing systems, which we have developed internally, where we'll say, you can use two-wheelers, you can use three-wheelers, you can use four-wheelers for efficiency. For this product, you want to use this. For that product, you can use this vehicle. So my key is at the moment, we want to achieve enough respect, enough capability, enough size. And then as we continue to grow, we will go towards that. But I think at the moment, I want to do, if I play cricket, I want to be the best. I don't want to be playing cricket, and go to a passenger car is completely different. Now, within our sector, for example, our two-wheelers, even though they are mobility, they can be used for personal. The four-wheeler can be used for mobility, but our focus is really at the moment to be able to give the cargo section a fantastic product and products and deliver on that. While we continue to grow, the R&D team continues to build, right? And so we're going to take it each step by step. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. So the people, you will see a lot of players that are coming and just doing, importing from China and putting a few products from India and selling it out. If we wanted to do that, that's quick money. We don't believe in that. If I want to build a Tesla of the Southeast, and for me, it's not just India. I'm going to do it in India. I'm going to do it in what I call the Greater Siam, which is Thailand, Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam. This is a 10% growth band in the future. Younger generation, younger population, growth. So we want to build a trans-Asian and Siam region. ASEAN is included in it. So that's our strategy.
So Uday, I'm glad to hear your vision, and specifically what you said about correlating yourself to Elon Musk. Now, let me get this straight from you. This is a market which is full of frugal innovation. And R&D goes a long way ahead in establishing the credentials of a company which is trying to venture into a new segment altogether. If I may ask you, how much of your annual budget is dedicated to R&D going forward? That's one.
Oh, huge.
That's one.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's one. Second, where do you see the market going? I mean, especially when it comes to EV. And now what I understand, you're primarily into B2B space. That's what you're targeting, right? Where do you see the reception, the competition, the reception from your clients, the competition from your other peers? Where do you see the market going? So first, let's talk about your R&D and then let's talk about your market.
Yeah. At the moment, we are spending, for the last 3 years, we've spent 60% of our budget on R&D. Now, in the last year, we're starting to change that. So for the first 2 years, it was all R&D. It was all R&D. Actually, it was almost 80 to 90% R&D, right? We kept spending on trying different batteries, different powertrains, different systems. We continually wanted to develop a product that was different, that gave a different experience, we are really big on design, because I think even in the villages now, the people want to get something which is design specific. Those days of just a basic is gone. All right. So even our rural areas like something with a design because of the younger generation. So we spend a large amount of, I would say a substantial part of our budget on R&D. It's going to change as we go, but R&D I will tell you, for example, on our four-wheeler, we are building a four-wheeler which possibly can give, Chota Hathi a run for its money. We are trying to build it at a cost equivalent to Tata's Chota Hathi, which is one of the biggest cargo vehicles in this country. And if we can achieve the pricing, and this is an electric versus fuel, you see the demand possibilities are there. So R&D is going to be continuously a very big part of and that's why I'm saying, once we continue to grow bigger and bigger, I'm going to go at the moment, all the money is.
Is there a specific number you can tell us? What is the percentage of your terms of revenue? If you have 100 rupees as revenue, then how much of that will go into R&D going forward?
I think 55 to 60% will go there.
You're saying 60% of your budget will go to R&D?
Yeah, because I want to keep on building. I keep saying to you guys, this is not a short-term vision for you. This is something we're going to build over the next 15 years.
And in that logic, what will fit better is your client's reception, right? So if I ask you in B2B scenario, what is the differentiating factor?
Sorry to interrupt. We will go to B2C. We have many demands, but right now we are focusing on B2B. But B2C, we will be selling B2C also. But please,
yeah, sure. That's future forward. I mean, even Elon Musk wants to be the first one to go on Mars, but we don't talk about the capital of Mars right now, right? So let's keep that a little distant. But as of now, if I ask you, what is the differentiating factor for your clients? I mean, what is the thing or the USP which they look for? Is it price differentiation? Is it mobility standard? Is it better product? Or is it a combination of all? What is it?
I think first thing, which this has become recent. This is post-COVID and post-China. First question is this Chinese? The first question somebody asks, right? Is this, and this is now. Okay, it wasn't like this maybe 3 months. I'm giving you you said frank question. I'm giving you frank answers.
Sure.
My clients want a product, and we've done a lot of work talking to people about this, is they want a vehicle that is going to be able to be stable, is going to have, was going to be quality product. Obviously, people are very sensitive to budget. People are more interested if they can get the product financed, because the product B2B is okay, but B2C is definitely financed. So what kind of financing? People want to see how much mobility, what efficiency can you bring to them in their mobility sector? And I think the clients really there is a general at the B2B level, they want to go green. They actually want to move towards reducing the pollution, the environment, as long as the cost differential is not crazy. The other point, we are working with swappable batteries also, right? We're going to have, you can have charge and you can have swappable. People want to make sure that in the area of their business, it can do enough travel time that they're not worried about the charging. And I think we're aligning ourselves with enough charging companies. We're going to put enough telematics in there that they can tell where is the nearest station where they can charge if they don't have swappable batteries. How much do they have to go? What is their weight? Giving them all of that technology, the GPS and all of that. Our customers want that. The key thing they want, I find that the demand is really there for quality.
Sure,
and I think there is a lot of Chinese stuff floating around, which is not quality.
Sure.
So you just mentioned that you want to become the you want to become the Tesla of the East, right? But one of the USPs of Tesla products are they are developing their own powertrains, although disruptive technology. So, but right now you are shied away from that. You're relying on external partners. So when do we see in-house development of lithium-ion batteries locally developed in India and all? If you can put a timeline to that,
yes.
And will it be in tune with global standards and also giving a run for the money for ICE vehicles?
You're absolutely right. I think the timeline to your answer, I really love the questions you guys are asking. It keeps my brain going. I love that because getting questions from you guys makes me even think after the interview, what more can I do? Because you deal with so many different people and so many different entrepreneurs. The answer to your question is that I think within the next 2 to 2.5 years, we would like to build all of our stuff in-house. We will do an alignment where there will be a partnership between, and so with many, many people, we are talking about a Omega OSM, we've talked to Virya about it, we've talked to Sun about it, Sun Mobility about it. We've talked about how we're going to work together with a large amount of people in the battery section, in many other areas. We are a component player ourselves, so the components are being built within our factories. We have very strong relationships with the brakes, with all of these people, and we're figuring out how do we internalize and do all of this. So I would say in the next 2 to 2.5 years, I would say all of it would be in-house. Again, I am very, very big on India. I spent 35 years abroad and I came back to India because I believe, not just because I'm Indian, because because of all of the problems, but India still has a very large younger generation, younger population. Demand is there. I'll give you something to ask you. Everybody thought, we are in the auto sector right now. Our factories are running non-stop. We can't keep up. And this is still in Corona. The auto sector is doing this right now. So what I'm saying is in the next 2-3 years, the demand for EV will be much, much higher. We want to build everything made in India. We want to build the whole ecosystem. And we've committed substantial capital ourselves in it. And we will. I come from a finance background. I ran many funds before. And I'm going to be talking to global players to join hands with us on this journey. Just like, I'm not comparing myself to Geo, but that's what Geo did. And that's what I'm planning to do.
So,
sure.
Coming back to battery development, safe to assume that it will be lithium-ion batteries. And also, will it give a run for its money for ICE vehicles? If you can.
Absolutely. Our goal is to absolutely give the run for the money to ICE vehicles, to all of those. We're also looking at fuel technology. I'm following very closely. I'm following a lot of the new technology developments, and I absolutely want to give. Nikola. You must have heard of Nikola. They are doing some very interesting parts. Some of the senior people at Nikola are some very close associates of mine from the US. And I'm having a lot of conversations with them about how we can align with them to help us to come work with their engineering and their technical staff in India to develop our four-wheeler, our pickup, our truck, because I think the truck market will change the game completely. So yes, the answer is to all of your questions is yes, we will give a run, because only then will we get scale. Why is China beating us a lot of the game? Because two things: they have the ecosystem and they have the scale, and we got to get both of them. And it's very interesting to see that, I saw Honorable Minister Kejriwal come up and talk, what they did just a few days ago. So we believe more and more states are going to go there. And in the next 5 years, you'll see a substantial part of the vehicles in electric.
So, what do you have to say about the FAME 2 policy announced by the Modi government? Since you are a fan of Tesla, I'm sure you're a fan of Modi also, because Elon Musk is a fan of Modi. So I'm assuming that you're also a fan of Modi. So are you happy with the FAME 2 policy rolled out by him, or you think there some loopholes need to be plugged or something, or there should be some tax rationalization or something, or what are your thoughts on that? If you can run us through it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of anybody that makes this country better. Okay, so I'll really tell you one thing. I'm apolitical, but am I seeing what the current government or Modi ji has done? Yes, there is development, but there's a lot more to be done. There's a lot more to be done, and I believe that the balance of his of his term, he has to do more. We as a community need to do more. That includes you, that includes me, that includes everyone, right? So my point is that, the government is pro business. The government needs to make sure that, labor is also looked after. But coming back to your question on the faith, am I a fan of Modi ji? Yes, but I'm a fan of everybody who wants to do well for this country and this nation. So I'm very much supporter of anyone on that. The answer on the fair, I think it covers a lot, but I think there are many areas that could be further developed, that we could actually improve. Actually, efficiency could be done. Actually, scale could be done, from where actually we could have an ecosystem that develops. So I think having a policy, but also making sure that all of this is incumbent in it, is very important.
Okay, that includes GST also. GST,
yes, absolutely.
I'll ask just one and then you can go ahead. Now, Uday, you did mention that the government needs to do far more when it comes to policy. Are you talking about land and labor laws? That's one. Are you talking about subsidization of vehicles, electronic vehicles, especially electric vehicles, especially because there was a lot of gung-ho around EVs about 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and everybody was optimistic about it. Now, Corona has just switched everybody back to square one. And suddenly it has to be started from the scratch. In a market like India, where people are not very open to new products and ideas, EV comes as, of course, a breath of fresh air, but also with its own set of, reluctances. I just have two set of questions for you. Firstly, how are you dealing with a market like that? How are you planning to deal with a consumer sentiment like that, which is at an all-time low? The demand is at an all-time low. In the auto sector, the reports are everywhere. And secondly, what do you suggest the government? Land and labor laws have been pending since the 70s and 40s.
So again, let me answer the land and labor laws absolutely need to be improved. We as a people, just in right after COVID, let everybody down. When I saw, we kept all of our factories open. Right after the first month, we took pass from the government and we kept everything open. I saw hundreds and thousands of people walking home. So as a community, as a people, as a group, we let them down. So the labor laws need to be more beneficial. These people, I tell a lot of my colleagues, businessmen, other people, we've been in business. Omega has been in business for 50 years. We had a 2-month downturn and we let the labor go. What kind of humanity? I am not a person that asks what the government can do for me. It is what can I do for the government. Then the government.
Uday, I'm not specifically referring to migrant migration. I'm talking about labor migration. I'm talking about labor laws, where you cannot fire a labor. Where you cannot fire a labor in spite of, we are being governed by the labor laws of the 60s. I'm talking about that.
I think, okay. So my point to you is on the labor laws. Look, there has to be done. Yeah, you're absolutely right. If we want to be able to compete with China, with Vietnam, see, I don't look at it just internally. It's a global marketplace. And you're absolutely spot on. So the government absolutely needs to do more. Look, it isn't that they haven't done, but it needs to be bounds and leaps, right? Now, India is a complex country. You cannot change things so quickly. It's not like China. In Hong Kong, they arrested one of the top guys of the newspapers yesterday. This is India. You can't do it. There's certain democracy. So you're absolutely right. This is because COVID has reset everything. This is a time and a chance where the government really needs to change everything very quickly. And they do need to be pro-labor, pro-land, to be able to bring businesses. It is a beautiful opportunity where Europe, America, UK, and a lot of the international players want to come to India to invest. And they are worried about these two issues on land and labor. So the answer to your question is, yes, we need a substantial effort at the federal, at the central level and at the state level to improve. That I'm 100%. So your second question was about
the declining consumer sentiment. The declining consumer sentiment and the reluctance to adopt new technologies.
That's a very valid look. I believe that India will have a V-shaped recovery. I don't know about Europe. I believe that India in the next, I would say by first or second quarter of next year, we will be in a very strong region. I believe that in the next 6 years, India will be the top 3 GDPs of the world. It'll be 1 or 2 between China and the US. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think it's going to be US, China. The third spot, COVID has really given us a chance as a country, because again, I come back to, we have a younger population. We have a consuming population. We have a chance to get. So guys, this is when 2 years from now, this will just be a tick on a chart. We have to look at a 5 to 10 year vision. Short term, we are all so negative, but this is a short term phenomenon. I believe that the change towards the pricing, if I can give you an electric vehicle, a 4-wheeler, for the price of what a fuel is, the savings are clear in the mind of the consumer. So what I need to develop is I need to give a technology, I need to give them a price that can compete. And I think in today, 3 or 4 years ago, technology was still in the process. There was going to be cheaper batteries. They're going to be, this whole ecosystem is going to change.
I think I'll have to time my question maybe a year later, because when it comes to consumer sentiment, most of the companies rely on answers which you're giving right now, the best technology and the best price. But eventually the market decides the results. So maybe next year we'll talk about the subject.
I think you should. I think you're going to find us to be one of the players that has been here. Absolutely.
No, sure.
Time will tell you the answer.
I hope so.
I'm here for the long haul. I have prepared myself for the long haul.
Sure.
Coming back to Make in India, how much have you invested to build your facility, your capex and all, and how much have you earmarked? And are you creating jobs by hiring people and all? And are you also into skill development, or do we? If I may ask you a direct question, are you removing jobs? Because if ICE vehicles go off, then all those roadside people who are just
the migrant laborers.
Migrant laborers or those tinkering with servicing and all, roadside people. I don't know what do you call that in US, because I've never been to US, but in US, but in India, there are various roadside repair shops who are like mending those ICE vehicles. So in the long term, do you create jobs or you eliminate jobs? This is a part B of the question beyond your investment plan.
First of all, we've committed to putting about 200 crores into this business. We have put up a new facility in Faridabad, and we will put a pan-India plan. This business will require a couple of $100 million, which is 2,000-3,000 crores. I will go to the markets, but I have enough money to take this ride by myself. to a long, long way. To answer your question, we even in none of our companies in Anglian Omega, we have cut. We've actually added people across the board in COVID. We have actually cut no one. Actually, I've hired more. I'm even looking for more people. Getting labor to come back and work is difficult in the current situation. I want labor to move to higher level works. An economy and a country moves higher when efficiency comes in. That doesn't mean people lose jobs. People get better skilled. So the labor law is something that has to be, the government has to put labor to be more efficient. There has to be programs. There should be more technical assistance. But I don't believe that we are hiring. I am giving a shout out, all the smart, technical people that have skills, engineers that want to get into this space. Contact us. If we find you that you can add value, we'll hire you, right? Number two, even the lower level people, we will bring them in. We will teach them and we will give them skills for better improvement. I believe that the ecosystem, all of us as a business community need to do this, to be able to improve this. COVID has given us a chance. I keep saying it. The US wants to buy from India. Europe wants to buy from India. UK wants to buy from India. We need to. I was on a call today in Latin America, a couple of ministers talking about how they need EVs in the mobility sector. And if we can be competitive to the Chinese, they are willing to do business with us. There's a lot of anti-China sentiment going on. We, as a country, need to take advantage of that. I'm definitely going to be part of it.
Sure. So, another concept which picked up pace pre-COVID was, non-ownership model, like Ola, Uber and all. Shared mobility got a huge kickstart, but after COVID, it again took a backseat. So, which kind of model do you wish to adopt in your business? Would you like to go for ownership model, like people will buy your vehicles and keep it, or will you go for you'll be happy with leasing out your vehicles? You will like to push the technology rather than pushing the product? Which kind of business model you would be comfortable with, and why?
Okay, couple of things. Number one, I definitely want to push the technology. I'm all about technology. COVID has taught us, all of us, technology has become number one for all of us. I believe that the model will be hybrid. We will have a system where there will be people that will buy direct. They will buy, or there will be people that will take us on financing. We are going to be building a system on that. My goal is to be able to provide, they say in England, different courses for different horses. Some horses like to run on sloppy tracks, some on green tracks. So they're going to be consumers. They're going to want different products. We're going to customize it. We're going to make sure that people that need the product, we find the financing for them. We align with financing companies for them. We want to build custom products for them. We want to be able to do people that want volume. We'll do that. There's going to be a lot of, there's going to be some big players we're talking to where we will run their mobility systems, So it's going to be a combination of all. I want to make sure that the OSM brand is out there when you are out there, when you're taking, not now, but when everything opens up, that, you go out and you see our vehicle there as a 3-wheeler, as a 2-wheeler, as a 4-wheeler. So look, this will take some time, but Elon did build it in 2 years. Rome wasn't built in one day. It takes time. We got to be patient. And I'll tell you what, the person that stays for the long haul will be the winner. So I'm not a guy that looks to be, I want to make a quick buck. If I wanted to make a quick buck, I'd still be sitting in America and running my fund and not come down here. I believe you've got to make a product and it takes some time, and time is what will develop. I'm one of those people that believes when there's a storm, the boats that stay out in the ocean the longest come out on the other side. So look, COVID has been a small step back, but I'm seeing a lot of positivity down in the future. So I'm a positive guy. I always look at the bottom. There's a half glass empty. You will say it's half empty. I can say it's half full. It's just a vision.
Sure.
I believe
Sure.
that there's a lot of positivity coming down the road, and there's a lot of opportunity.
You said that you will stick to B2B model right now. Later on, you'll move to B2C. But B2C involves retailing and all, brick and mortar stores and all. And when you're selling two-wheelers, you cannot, restrict yourself to B2B. You have to be B2C in your approach. So, will you be going online or will it be offline through through brick and mortar stores? If you can talk a little bit about your network expansion plan.
We are going to be, my MD is Dr. Dev Mukherjee, and he always tells me, we are going to be going, we are all about technology. We are going to go and build, it's going to be online, but there are going to be areas where we'll have a hub and spoke where you have to understand at Anglian Omega, we're already a national player. So the West, the East, the South, we have operations everywhere. So to have operations in those areas is very easy for us. But we will use technology, and please understand, Dr. Dev and his team worked very heavily on the technology side. And so, we are going to use technology as much as possible. But are we going to have some brick and mortars? Yes, we will, because people need to see, touch, feel. So it'll be a combination of both. But I think we will use technology for our advantage.
Sure.
Guys, just one thing. I believe, we as a team, it's not me, it's the team that believes in this. And we've got a combination of a lot of young dreamers that we call ourselves that work together. So, we don't need to motivate each other. We're already motivated.
Sure.
That's great.
So Uday, we're running short of time. This was really insightful. Thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you do set on the path which you have set for yourself and your team. And we see you renewed next year and probably some better conversations.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Uday. Thank you.